from a business perspective, I guess you've got to be a little bit more selective in what plugins you install and what your acceptable risk is. What would happen if the site went down for an hour, 2 hours, a day, a week,
a month.
What does that mean to your bottom line? What does that mean? What is the cost of that? So you might have to think more carefully about what plugins and themes you install.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Digital Marketing Wingman podcast, the podcast where we bring you helpful tips and advice on websites, Google, and social media. Hey everybody, welcome to the Digital Marketing Wingman podcast, episode number 3. I'm pretty impressed that we got to episode 3 already. We had the lovely Kate from D&Co Studio last week talking about branding. That was great. We got some great feedback on that podcast online on Facebook and in Facebook groups. So thank you to Kate for coming in. And this week we've got Nick back.
Howdy all.
And we're going to be talking all things about WordPress and the fact that it's free and what your options are when you're using WordPress, whether those options be free, cheap, or expensive. So my name's Nathan George. I am the director here at Pixeled, a digital marketing agency in Geelong, and Nicholas Katsambiris by my side is a leading web developer / WordPress developer. So you can listen to this podcast now on, we post it, we record the podcast on Friday afternoons at 3 o'clock and we go live on Facebook and Instagram, so you can catch us there.
Around 3 o'clock.
Around 3 o'clock, depending on technical circumstances. And we haven't quite got it 100% right just yet. And we haven't quite got a way to view questions that easily whilst we're recording the podcast. We don't have a studio or a crew to we'll feed the questions to us. But
maybe we'll hire some people next time.
One day. Maybe not next time,
some
but
light
one day.
Boxes.
But we'll work that out. But you can listen to the podcast on Spotify. You'll see it posted on the Pixeled website, and you can now get us on iTunes. So if you just use Siri and say, "Hey Siri, play the Digital Marketing Wingman podcast," it'll come up automatically, which is pretty cool. Feel pretty famous doing that. And we're also on YouTube, so you'll get the recorded version of this podcast with video, so you can see our faces on YouTube. And again, the link will be on the Pixeled website. So to start off with, Nick, this podcast, WordPress.
Yes.
Why is WordPress free?
WordPress is free because it's a open source.
And what is
project.
Open source? What's open source?
Open source software.
What does that mean?
It means that anyone can contribute to it. Anyone can view the code. It's not locked down. It's not proprietary. Anyone can extend upon it, download it, install it, modify it, do absolutely anything they want to it. Essentially.
So they can turn it into another product if they wanted to?
Yes, yeah.
So
you could change the name of it and resell it. Yep.
So WordPress itself is it was created off the back of that. It was based off of another piece of software.
Yeah. And I can't remember what it's called.
I know it's got Cafe in the name. That's the only thing I remember.
Let's call it Cafe Script.
Cafe Script. I think it's not Cafe Press, but
it was a while ago.
B Cafe or I don't know.
BB Cafe or something?
I don't know. Anyway, it itself is a what they call a fork of the software, and they've made it into something else and gone on with it. It's under that license, the GPL license, which covers all those things. So WordPress has an amazing community of people that contribute to WordPress, not just to the code. What sort of other things do people do for the WordPress community?
They can contribute to translations for international translations, supported in every single
language.
I was going to say currency for some reason.
Too much crypto on your mind.
But if you install WooCommerce, you can use it in any currency. And I guess you could just build a business off of that. So there's companies that are built off WordPress that just provide training and support for their WordPress site and nothing else.
There are a lot of, I've heard of actually companies that, because they get so much out of WordPress for free, that they actually they commit a certain amount of resources back to WordPress. They actually use their developers.
It does say in the WordPress community that you should donate 5% of your time or something back to the open source platform.
Oh, okay. Truth bomb, we don't donate 5% of our time.
This is
back.
5%.
Well, this is it, I suppose. We're giving it exposure. Yep.
Baby steps.
So it's free to use, free to distribute.
Yep.
Free to modify.
Yep.
What about plugins and themes?
Yes. So that would be what why it's so popular, because you can extend it so easily, and there's millions and millions of free plugins and themes available that anyone can use and install.
So there's a whole bunch of themes on the WordPress repository, the
Yep.
repo they call it.
Yep.
And they're all for free.
Yeah.
And then there's paid plugins, I guess, that you can buy from websites, plugins and themes.
Yep.
That you would pay with like a normal checkout process, but then download and install them onto your website.
Yeah. So there'd be individual companies that have created their own themes and plugins that they want to sell, or they could sell it through a marketplace like Theme Forest, where there's thousands and thousands of options available.
Now, even though these companies are selling their products, in theory, and it's not proven, it's not 100% proven in a court of law, but it's suggested that anything that's built to be used under WordPress, like a plugin or theme, is derivative works of WordPress, and therefore falls under the GPL license. So what are we actually paying for when we buy a plugin? If it's free to distribute, what am I paying for when I buy that plugin?
I think the main thing you pay for is the support, the ongoing support, the updates from the developer or the company. I think they're probably the two main areas that people or companies focus on when selling their plugins and themes.
It's kind of hidden. Like, they don't advertise the fact that this plugin is actually GPL, and you actually could give it to anyone you like.
No. It's just part of the WordPress
and it's kind of a
ecosystem, I guess.
It's the beauty and the flaw of WordPress, because commercially it's kind of tricky to get involved in because you don't really own your product.
But it wouldn't be what it was today unless it was open.
That's it.
And under that GPL. So
it wouldn't have the same uptake, the same usage if it wasn't free.
No.
And therefore wouldn't have the same community following it and contributing to it. And
no.
It wouldn't be where it is today, I think, powering a third of the web.
Yeah. Yep.
So when it comes to building a website, everyone's different. Everyone's business is at a different stage. You might not even be in business. You might just be a hobbyist or just tinkering around and learning how to be a web developer. There are basically three options when it comes to building that website, and some are one of the options is the free route.
Yep.
We use obviously WordPress is free, but use all free plugins and free themes. There's the cheaper route, which is where you buy themes from places like themeforest.com.
Yep.
There are plenty of other theme stores online, and you might pay $50 for a theme. You might pay $50 or $100 for certain plugins. And then you've got the more, I'll say expensive. Everyone's definition of expensive is different, and it depends on what value you're getting back from your website. But I'll say most, when you go to a web development agency, that's the more expensive route, where you're paying substantially more than $50 to get a website built. So let's start with cheap. What are our options when it comes to building a site? We've got the default themes that come with WordPress.
Yep.
They're actually not a bad start. They're pretty clean.
Yeah.
They're probably aimed more for blogging, not so much businesses.
Hobbyists.
Yeah.
Maybe like sporting clubs and things like that.
But you can make it work. Like, if you're not too worried about, winning design awards, it's a pretty clean start, and it's...
If you just need something up and it's probably going to be short term, then it's a great option.
So if you were let's just say a bowls club,
yes,
and you've got limited technical ability...
Perfect example.
The 2017 WordPress theme is probably not a bad option. Is that the black and white one, the fairly simple one?
Yeah, I think so.
Comes installed when you install WordPress. That's a pretty good option, and you can add photos, and it will look nice and clear. You don't have to worry too much about styling it.
No.
In terms of plugins, though, it's a little bit more risky, let's say.
Yeah.
When you're looking for functionality, because there are literally thousands and thousands of plugins available. And it's fantastic that they're free, but it's also... there is some sort of quality control, but there's no guarantees.
No.
And from a hobbyist perspective, that doesn't really matter. You don't really care. But from
It's not really going to have much of an impact if something went wrong.
no, like if something was broken on the site, you wouldn't really care. Or
No.
if the site was even completely down, like, would it really matter? Like, you just fix it when you could. But from a business perspective, I guess you've got to be a little bit more selective in what plugins you install and what your acceptable risk is. You know, what would happen if the site went down for an hour, 2 hours, a day, a week,
A month.
What does that mean to your bottom line? What does that mean? What is the cost of that? So you might have to think more carefully about what plugins and themes you install.
Yeah.
So,
Which is especially important for e-commerce sites.
yeah, I mean, WooCommerce is a fantastic plugin, and that is free.
Yeah.
But all of the extended functionality on WooCommerce, there are a lot of free plugins as well for that.
Oh, yeah.
But there's also the premium versions. We'll touch on that in a second. But I guess they're going to be a lot more reliable because you've actually paid for that support, that service.
Yeah.
There's an expectation of some sort of standard there.
Yeah.
So really, going down the free route, who would we suggest that's suitable for, really?
Only bloggers, small businesses, people that don't.
I might even suggest that business probably should stay clear. Even small businesses might stay clear of completely free.
Yeah.
I'd say if you're maybe just tinkering at this stage, maybe getting into web development.
Or if you're just trying to get a feel for what you could do. And it might only be up for 2 weeks before you pull the pin.
Yeah.
Just some like basic contact information.
I certainly wouldn't recommend, if you're going to start an e-commerce store, that potentially other options than just installing all of the free stuff on the WordPress repo.
But I think we'd sometimes usually recommend using an alternative route, something like Squarespace or Wix or something like that.
So that probably falls into our next category, which is cheap. So there are a bunch of options, which I think is probably more the small business side of things. Maybe when you're just starting out a business, you're on your own, budgets are tight, you might not have a budget at all.
Yeah.
There are plenty of options out there for themes. And it can be a bit of a trap, themeforest.com, these beautiful themes that look absolutely amazing in the demos. But what happens when you install them? They look like crap.
Every single time.
They never look like what you bought. They never do.
Well, they have so many options and settings and bloat that you just don't know where to start.
Yeah.
Even I struggle. It's
The
overwhelming.
The configuration screens with all the options are just phenomenal.
And you'd barely use 2% of it. It's crazy.
And it's not like you can modify them. You can't strip out that stuff easily anyway.
No.
And we probably wouldn't even attempt trying to strip it out.
No.
It's just so complicated. And most sites would never need that level of option.
No.
It's a bit of a race at the moment. All of the big theme developers, they're trying to include the kitchen sink.
Yeah, it's just a one size fits all. Yeah.
And on one hand, it's great for someone who just wants a nice, simple interface to build websites with, and they've got access to everything that they could possibly want. But
if you're just starting out, no way.
Look, it's really good for the tinkerers and
if you've got time to invest.
If you've got time to invest in tinkering with it, and you're not too concerned about the availability of the website. So if something went wrong, at the end of the day, you got to think, I mean, there's a lot of big companies that are multi-million-dollar companies that base their online business on the back of a $50 theme, which is pretty absurd.
That's crazy.
It is the absolute
when you put it that way, it's
foundation
insane.
of their business, their online business. And this developer, you have no idea who it is. You have no idea whether they're going to stick around. You have no idea. You were telling me a story earlier about...
Yeah, there was a reputable company that has like 30,000 users were putting malicious content on their themes, trying to get people to sign up to their hosting account by slowing down their websites intentionally.
So I would have bought the theme, used it unknowingly for a while.
You could have used it for 2 years, and then all of a sudden they've slowly been adding stuff to get you to move to their other products and pay.
So it's a bit of a wild, wild west of themes, I guess, out there.
Yeah.
And even, the bigger players, it's hard to know.
There's never a guarantee.
There are some good ones. I mean, there is. There has to be.
Yeah.
And, there's some big ones that are, some great stories. The guy that, lost the name now, the big one, the A, starts with the A. Avada. So the Avada theme, the story,
On
that's the guy
Forest.
from India,
Yeah.
who went from nothing to like being this mega multi-million dollar guy with
Oh
this
yeah,
huge
he's made
palace.
millions off that. That's been
Just
number one on the list forever.
Search that on YouTube, actually, Avada theme developer.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool story about, how he went from nothing to just being
A powerhouse.
in the WordPress world.
Yeah.
So those themes, they've got the money, they have support in place. They probably have support
They
centers with multiple.
They have a support team. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess they're going to be better in that sense. But a lot of the other ones, there's a lot of smaller ones, smaller development teams. And
Well, yeah, that story I said was a team of 4 people. So with
how can you?
30,000 members.
And you don't know which country they're in a lot of the time. Very, very risky in the sense of like, what if they did something like that to my business?
Or if they shut down tomorrow and you don't have support anymore.
What if the theme has a vulnerability where your site can be hacked and they don't do anything about it? They don't care. They don't take action.
Yeah.
That's something you've got to weigh up. Now, the trade-off is you paid $50. You didn't have to spend an awful lot of money on your website, but the risk is, and it's might never happen. So a lot of people say, "Oh, well, I've never had a problem." Great, fantastic. You've been lucky. But
until it impacts your business.
Until it impacts your business, and you realise, it's not a consideration. So, we don't use themes.
No.
We sort of have come a long way, and been through pre-WordPress development and sort of seen a lot of things in the web industry, and we've just decided that we don't want to have our business relying on another business. We want to basically have control of our own destiny. So we use a very basic theme.
Yeah, more of a framework than a theme.
More of a framework, and we just add in what we need. And I guess it's going to hopefully perform faster, less bloat. It's tailor-made.
Yep, tailored to every single project.
And we found that's a much better approach, but we're web developers, so not everyone can do that.
No.
So that's the trade-off. And I guess that takes us into the next category, which is the more expensive options. Now, when you're a business and you've got revenue and you don't want to lose business, you don't want to be down. Your website you want to be down. You want the website to perform, not just be on. You want it to actually perform.
Yeah.
That's when you would invest in a web developer, and websites from web agencies or developers can range from, I don't know, let's say $500 right up to $50,000 and beyond. So it really depends. And if we're talking to someone who's new and they just started their business and they don't really know, and you showed them your websites that you've been designing, and then you showed them, or they looked at demo sites on theme for us of $50,
it would be fairly comparable.
They look the same.
Yeah.
Well, maybe yours look a little bit better, but
thanks.
But on the surface, you wouldn't really know, like, what am I paying for? So what benefits do I get out of coming to see?
I think it's the whole package. So you could install a $50 theme, but can you easily set up a MailChimp marketing campaign? Can you easily optimize it for search engine rankings?
Yeah.
All those things that I don't think a hobbyist would be able to achieve.
Yeah.
That's probably the main thing. It's the complete package, not just the website.
And our process that really, I guess, we get to understand the business and their target audience and really craft not just the way it looks, but the way it's structured,
the way it functions, the user
components,
experience,
all the bits and pieces.
Yeah.
It's got someone who's done that lives and breathes that stuff.
Yeah. And it's personalized to their brand. I don't think you'd see any of our designs that look like a template because they all are built around their brand or their logo or their image.
No, I know we could build websites faster and I could make more money if we just used a template and just rebadged everyone's site. But it's not the same. It's not the same.
No.
Not the same result.
Completely different outcome. Customers would see that, I would think.
Yeah, and we just wouldn't be proud to put our name to something like that.
Not at all.
I liken it to a builder. So I could buy a home kit and build a house if I wanted to. I could try to build a house, and I would probably get the walls up and maybe get the roof on, and it would look like a house. You could call it a house, but would it last? Would it perform? Would it be comfortable? Would it?
Probably not.
Probably not. So I liken that to a website. Anyone can build a website these days. There's so many tools that are out there.
Oh, yeah.
And when you're starting out, if you have no revenue right now, there's really no value to bring with a web developer just yet, because they don't understand. You don't understand your target audience yet. You're just starting out.
You don't know what your sales are like online. There's a whole range of things.
You don't even know if your business is viable at that stage.
Yeah.
So coming to a developer and spending thousands of dollars can be super risky. Now, if you've got thousands of dollars to go, it might be a faster way to boosting your business along, but you've got to be prepared to lose it, that maybe your business isn't viable, and it's not the website's fault. It's just the product just never was viable.
Yeah.
So I quite often turn customers away.
Yeah.
I say, Squarespace, for example, is a great option. Now, I think Squarespace, unless you want to get into web development, for some reason you like web development, you want to tinker, you're a hands-on kind of person, buying the $50 theme from Theme Forest is not a bad idea. It has its risks, but the trade-off is that it's cheap.
Yeah.
But if you're a business owner, you probably that's not a web development business, you probably want to spend your time on other things. And Squarespace is a completely encapsulated platform. You don't have to understand how it works, the technicalities, what's risky, what's a good plugin, what's a bad plugin.
It's fairly straightforward.
You just pay the fee and they manage the platform for you. So I think that's a great option for if you're starting out. But again, what you put into that website is based off of your own knowledge, not necessarily
of what a website should look like. What text should be in there, what components. So it's a great way to test the waters, but it's not the same as someone who builds websites for a living. Who lives and breathes marketing.
Who can put in the right pieces in play, or at least put in a good first guess to start with, and then can analyze and modify and
optimize
things
based on that feedback.
Exactly. So I guess I think to go to a web developer, spend thousands of dollars, you've really got to be in that next bracket. You've probably built a website before.
Yeah.
For someone like us, like our websites, starting point these days is around $5,000 for a fairly simple website. And for someone who's just starting out, that can be a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
Price-wise, they don't see the value in that.
But if they've tried to do it themselves and they're not getting any value out of it, then that's usually when we'll hear from them. But
the flip of that is a business that's perhaps been around for 3 years. They've had a simple website. They've started to see sales and customers, and they know their business is viable.
And they've hit their knowledge limit.
Well, they've hit their knowledge limit.
What now?
Yeah, they want to get to the next stage where they don't know how. Coming to us and spending $5,000 or more suddenly has real value, because we can take that successful business and amplify that with a website that really, really fires for them.
Yep.
So that's where I'd suggest, not just us, but any development agency. I think when you're starting out, I would be the same. I would trial things myself.
Oh yeah, of course.
On a cheaper platform until I have some sort of idea that this is going to work.
Yeah.
And then the experts can really bring you value. And rather than you're basically flipping a coin on whether that business. Most businesses fail.
Yeah.
So flipping a coin on whether that would work and spending too much money at the start could be a bit of a risk. So that's our three, I guess, options, 3 stages of business for building a website. So you get the cheap, free options.
Yep.
Tinkerers, hobbyists,
bloggers,
where there's not much risk, or there's no concern of business downtime or website downtime. You got your cheap option, which I think is more for startups or tinkerers, people that are willing to get their hands dirty, have the time to do that.
Yep.
But also accept the risk that their destiny is in the hands of someone else.
Yeah.
And then, seeking a developer, a web development agency is definitely for the next stage when you know your business is viable and you want to get a more serious outcome.
Yeah. Yep.
Great. Okay. Awesome. Well, that's going to wrap up this podcast. If you would like to be on the podcast, now I'd like to talk to marketers and other graphic designers and web developers and shoot the shit basically on web development topics.
Yep.
But I'd also be open to talking to business owners with their stories on what they think worked for them. And I think that'd be a great thing to share on the podcast. So that's it. Thanks very much for listening, and I'll see you next Friday.
See you guys.
Bye.